Hello, hello. Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome back.
Hey there, Mama.
It's the New Year. Hey, Mama. How you doing? My name is Ramón Perez.
Eric Vedder.
And this is Makeshift Mondays. We're back after, what was it now, 3-4 month hiatus. Took a break. Maybe not even. Maybe 2.5 months. I've lost track of the season. How you doing, buddy?
Almost 3.
Good to see your enthusiasm. You're wide awake for tonight?
Yes. Season 2.
Right. We're ready to roll. I'm pouring myself a nice little bottle of tequila here just to kind of warm up for the evening, you know.
I've got
I don't know.
Got a glass of wine.
Ooh, wine. You're keeping it classy. I guess I'm going to be the messy one tonight.
When are you not the messy one?
Wow. Oh, boy. All right.
Season 2. So
pour this up a little bit here.
Why did we start today? Why today?
Well, things are rolling along, and we have a busy spring going on. It's here you go. Here, cheers, buddy.
Boom.
Good to see you again.
Cheers to you.
Oh,
you got the Ray box. Nice.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Sarah was the winner of our monthly raid box contest, the mystery box. Every 15th, we send out a newsletter, and she was in with the correct answer this time around.
Well deserved.
So I hope you enjoy the books and swag that we sent along, Sarah. And if anybody else is interested, just sign up to our newsletter in the links below, and you can enter a contest to win a prize. And even if you don't win every month, there is a draw at the end of the year for a bigger prize, which will involve some original art and some fun things as well. So it's pretty fun just to get people aware of what we're doing and excited about what we're producing here at Raid. But yeah, you're asking why now. So I mean, we got a busy spring ahead of us, right? You know, and when I say busy, we have 3 Kickstarters coming up. Yep. We have Raid 4 launching in 7 days.
Ooh.
And we have Forest Folk Volume 2 launching in 4 weeks. And then my very own Kookaburra launching in 6 weeks.
Oh my God, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. It's going to be like when I finally do art and I'll be like, this ain't real.
So it's a little bit crazy, but I couldn't be more excited. It's just to see all these books coming out. And actually, speaking of Kickstarters, our guest tonight, I actually just got his book in the mail.
I'm still waiting for mine.
Yeah, he likes me better because I don't live in
probably
London.
Didn't send the address. We're waiting on one.
It was grab. I got like some nice prints here, a little magnet and a postcard over here that's going right on the fridge. So.
Beautiful.
Derek, I'm actually excited to talk to Derek tonight. He's our guest, Derek Laufman, and he's been moving into the Kickstarter realm, doing a lot of his own content, and this book looks phenomenal. Yeah, and just the feel of it's wonderful. It's like got the soft touch with the spot gloss. Oh, nice. Damn it, that's nice.
His stuff is so nice. I love watching. It's so much full of energy. It's just fun. I'm excited to have him on for sure.
Yeah, and the great thing is Derek is actually part of our 4th Raid anthology. Like I said, it's launching in 7 days. Rob, can you throw on the link for everybody? If they haven't seen it yet, they can now. That's where you can find the landing page for our campaign. But enough of that.
Please hit the notify button, everyone.
Yeah. You'll get the if you hit the notify button, you'll get an awareness email when we launch. Awareness email. What's that? You'll get a notification email.
You get a letter in the mail, handwritten.
It'll arrive 3 months too late by the time the campaign goes, but it is what it is. Who else we got going on here? Ooh, Eric House. Ooh, nice. Well, glad to have you here, buddy. Without further ado, let's bring on the lovely Derek and get to drawing.
Hello.
There he is, my man. Whoa, you're on board. Here you are. Well, how you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you guys?
Not too bad. Oh, no, pleasure to have you here. And You want to bet just gonna be Eric and I, or Derek and I?
Over, so I'm gonna
Yeah. It's good to have an enthusiastic host. You know what I'm saying? Actually, I don't know if you heard Derek, but Eric was complaining that he hasn't received his book yet. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. My wife takes care of all that, so I could bring her in if you want to show that.
He's a local Londoner, so like he's probably last on the list. You know what I mean?
Maybe you didn't fill out your survey.
That's what I'm thinking.
That's probably more like Eric, actually. He's kind of technologically inept a little bit.
Pencil and eraser, a lot of erasers.
So Derek, we were chatting a little bit beforehand, and you've been an interesting move doing like a yearly Kickstarter, and it's kind of it's a path I want to follow actually. So I'm actually excited to have you on the show tonight and chat a little bit about focusing more on what it seems like you're doing, your own content over doing fan service art for, you know, whatever it is out there, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, or Marvel or whatnot. Is like, what made you make that move?
You know, I was doing fan art for so long, and it was great. Like, it was good for my career. But at some point, I'm realizing that, like, longevity-wise, like, I feel that, like, having my own IPs is going to generate me money in the long run. Like, it allows me to, like, sell products like 10 years from now, 20 years from now that I make now. And that's sort of what I was thinking about, is just more like longevity for, you know, having my own business, because essentially that's what I've done, like, as a freelancer, is made art my business.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, as freelancers, we are our own business, and you're just kind of taking it to the next level, creating, like you said, your own IPs and stuff like that. Were these ideas that you kind of had lingering around, you know, like a little black book or sketchbook, or is it kind of you're just a bit of that and a bit of like, oh, I got this idea just off the cuff or whatever it might be? Like, is there kind of any rhyme or reason, or is it just kind of going where inspiration strikes?
I think it's more the latter. I always have ideas. They're not always good ideas. I have hundreds of like Google Docs with like started scripts with like a paragraph and or a bunch of bullet points. And sometimes I end up like farming little bits from little things I maybe wrote like 2 years ago, and then like put it into something new. Or I find that like the first initial ideas sound great when they're like rolling in my head, and then I write them down, and I'll come back to it like a couple months later and I'll look and it's garbage. But there might be a nugget. There might be a nugget in there.
I can see that.
Yeah.
No, I have like I know like I've typical artist. You have I used to have more of a sketchbook than I do now, but I would always like write down ideas and think they're amazing, and then you come back to them maybe a year later, maybe 10 years later, and like you pull a couple of kernels out of there. I always find it quite fun to actually look through old sketchbooks that I haven't in years and actually just pull out, kind of like be surprised by my old ideas, if that makes sense. Like you're just coming,
and I'm surprised at how good some of those old ideas. And like I surprised myself, going, "That's actually not a bad idea." Probably use that. And because like you were excited about it at the time, you're passionate about that idea, right? And then you go off and do something else, or you get distracted, and then you come back to it, and you're like, "Shit, that actually still has legs. That's not bad."
Yeah, maybe you come back to it. You're a little bit smarter. You're a little bit more evolved as a creator, a better writer, and you can take that now old idea and make it even better.
Well, that's actually a good point, because it's like maybe at the time you don't think you had the ability or the know-how or even how you would like approach that idea and like market it perhaps or showcase it, and like, oh, now with social media and everything else, you're like, oh shit, I this will work perfect here. This will be great. But
I've had a few ideas I've started over the years where it's just I've even told myself, like, I'm not ready for this. This is way too complex. This is a little bit beyond me at this point in my career. I'll save this one for a decade down the road, or 5 years, whatever it might be. And if I revisit and I still like it, then power to me.
What are you actually working on? Speaking of, oh, there we go. Nice.
Oh, me?
Me?
I didn't know it was on the screen.
Came up.
I'm working on so there's a few things going on. As I said, I'm doing a Kookaburra Kickstarter, which will be interesting because Kickstarter, Kookaburra has been kind of in a holding pattern for years, and I'm basically trying to create. So this is actually to go for the Kickstarter, but it's also for my website. I want to redesign and create some more imagery that's more centric to my own IPs rather than stuff I've worked on for Marvel or DC or whatever it might be. So this is kind of like just me. This is a banner I've had sitting around for a little bit. I'm just kind of repurposing it for those elements, basically.
Nice.
And hopefully, yeah. So basically, my goal this year, actually, on our... Because we kind of briefly touched upon it, I guess, at the opening before we dove in with Derek. But we're back for the first half of our 2022 season, basically. So last year, we did 23 episodes of Makeshift Mondays. And this year, we're aiming for about 20, but we're doing 10 in the spring and 10 in the fall, right? To keep it a little bit simpler and less overwhelming on our schedules.
Totally.
Yeah.
Give us the summer off.
Basically
is what
exactly. And also, so my goal for the first season is just to work on Kookaburra stuff because I'm going to be doing the book. So every episode I want to work on something different that'll either tie into the book, the campaign, or the website. So that's my MO behind this piece.
Smart.
Nice,
It's
nice.
good.
Yeah.
It's good to have those like project goals, right?
Yeah, I find like if you don't, and I've fallen suspect to this, as I'm assuming all of you have. It's like if you don't set those little goals or even like devote those hours, the days will fleet by, and it's a week or two and you haven't done anything, basically. So the original impetus for Makeshift Monday was Eric calling me up, going, "Hey, I need to draw every Monday," or whatever it was.
That's how it started, yeah.
That's how it started.
Let's lock into something every week that we sit down and draw for 2 or 3 hours, So
Yeah, and this is a way of just kind of working on our own things. I know Eric there, I think, is working on some stuff for Sheldon's book, I think.
Segueing into what I'm working on. I have to finish up the 3 illustrations for Sheldon Carter's, SM Carter, To Steal the Sun book, which we launched, which we successfully kickstarted in November, and I signed up to do three pinups for him. So this is the third one that I'm working on, and I'm trying to kind of just get all 3 of them to a good place, and then kind of start finalizing the finer details and stuff. But it's a bit of ways to go still, but we're getting there.
Closer, time's ticking away.
Yes, but enough about us. What's Derek working on? He's sitting there all quiet. He's waiting to show his cool artwork. Oh snap! There we go.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, actually, Raid Anthology, Klaatu kind of kicked my butt a little bit to like start working on Crimson Fall in more of a serious way.
Oh, nice.
Having the short story in there just sort of reminded me how much I like that little world I started to create, and I wanted to dive in more.
Okay.
And that's one of those projects that I was started to work on a year ago and put on the shelf for until basically you guys approached me, and I had this thing sort of like almost done in the can, like a little short, and then that's about as far as I had gotten with the project. And then since then, I've just sort of reevaluated what I was going to do with the project, and now I'm hopefully on course to make it more of my own sort of anthology with stories based in that world.
Oh, nice. That's awesome, dude. Whoa, danger.
Whoa.
Danger. Man down.
I'm back.
Because this, now is this something that you kind of release partially as well through your Patreon? Because I know you have a Patreon as well. Do you use that as kind of like an incentive to get you drawing and keep you drawing? Or
yeah, definitely. I sort of, Patreon is sort of a catch-all for, I have fans that would like to get insights into like my process, and they want to know I have like a tier for draw over feedback, because that's something I'd gotten requested for a lot.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah.
And Just sort of like a place I could go to with like people that are mostly tuned into what you're doing. And whether it's a tutorial I want to share or just like a new piece that I'm working on, it's just kind of like a great place to just sort of share all that stuff, because sometimes like on social media it gets to be like you're not going to share everything all the time. And plus also just social media in general, it's been taking a bit of a hit, just in terms of like views and traction on things and stuff.
Well, you also run the risk of like people missing the post, right? It gets like it gets piled on by all these other people, so you're like, oh, did anybody see that or not, right? Like
I love the algorithm when you have like X amount of followers, but like they'll tell you like 1% has seen your post. Like, great, that's wonderful. Because I've toyed with doing a Patreon over the years, and I always worry about being overwhelmed by it on top of everything else. So I'm always curious to get people's input on how they feel about it. If it's something that's beneficial or.
Well, I find it's not that much work. Like, maybe I'd say, like, I'd spend on average maybe like 1 day a week, maybe like a half day, and that's and that's if I'm doing like a tutorial or something. But if it's just a general post about something, maybe it's like work I've done for like say Pops or something I want to share in greater detail. Stuff like that.
And that's the other thing too. You also work full time for clients as well, right? So you're constantly juggling what you're doing with Patreon and Kickstarter with your own workload as well, right?
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, I bet it is.
And you got 2 boys, right?
I have 2 boys.
Oh my God, yeah, that's even more. Do you ever feel overwhelmed, or is it is the pain kind of satisfying when you see the results, basically?
Yeah, I mean, it can be overwhelming for sure. I try to like sometimes it'll take its toll on my body if I'm spending too much time at the desk.
Yeah, for sure.
I developed like a hip problem over the last year, and just like too much sitting.
And, that's the danger of our job, right?
Right. I had to like switch chairs. I had like a really nice like Herman Miller chair, but for some reason it was just cutting into me in a weird way that I didn't know was causing a problem over like the course of maybe like a year or 2 years. Like sitting in that chair for like hours on end.
Oh, don't tell me that, because I have a Herman Miller chair.
I love the chair, but it was just the way I like to sit, and I would just I'd be pushing my hip into the plastic that kind of like curved up on the side, and it started to develop bursitis in my hip. So I had to go like through physio for that.
Oh shit!
It's still kind of an issue, but it's not as bad as it was. I just sort of try to take breaks, and I have my couch right there, and I'll take my iPad to the couch, and I'll just like, sit there just when I need like a break. I can't do like most stuff on my iPad. I'm too big. I like drawing on a big screen. I like using my whole arm. Like I hate noodling.
I'm the same way actually, because I have an iPad and I still like prefer sitting down in front of my Cintiq. It's just the large body gestures. Sorry to interrupt there, but like I always find it interesting because I know Eric does a lot of work on the iPad as well. Yep. And he loves it.
Well, I switch it up like Derek says because I get tired of sitting in this stupid seat. And actually, funny, today I was looking at like walking desks. Can I get something where I'm standing
and walking?
Because I do a lot of I have to do a lot of like organizing and managerial stuff.
You want something to like hang on your neck and like walk around with, like somebody at like a baseball game, like one of those.
Well, it's like that. I saw this ad for a bike the other day where it's a bike, but it has a platform which is a treadmill. Yeah. So by walking on the treadmill, you're powering the bike. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. It's taking walking to another level here. It's like, all right.
Yeah, so like the Kickstarter stuff, the Patreon stuff.
There you go, Eric.
Kickstarter, sorry. That's what you need. Patreon stuff. Like, how long have you been doing the Patreon now?
Patreon has been, I'm going to say, year and a half.
Okay. So it's a recent development during COVID, I guess. Yeah.
Overall, are you like that's the future for me? That's where I want to stay in, or is it like a temporary thing? Like,
no, like I mean, it's been good. Like, it brings in a decent amount of money every month, and that's just sort of like been a bit of a slower build than maybe what I was hoping when I first launched it. But
yeah,
it's been good. I mean, it's a few grand a month, and
that's nothing to scoff at.
No, like I mean, it helps when if I want to, like for instance, when I was working on The Witch of Wickerson, I had to take like 6 weeks off of freelance to get that done.
Oh wow!
Like, it was a blitz. I just did it in 6 weeks.
Oh wow!
And I really, and then when you're not doing freelance, I mean, it's hurting.
Yeah.
And so but the Patreon helps for that. My online store helps supplement some of that income. And those are things that like I find like as a freelancer having more passive incomes like a store or the Patreon, it really helped to allow me to kind of like do these personal projects. Nice. So they're really key. So yeah, so I mean I'd say it is the future. Like I mean in terms for like what I do, certainly I would love to get to a level of like say like a Lowish or something and have like 25 grand coming in every month. But
yeah, wow, right.
That's something to I'm sure we'll ever get to. But
the main thing is you started and you're on your way, right? So
yeah, you never know. So it's been great. It's been great for that. Yeah. So I definitely recommend it. For that regard, but. It's not easy. Not just anybody can start one and start making money. No. Like, it's hard.
Oh God, no.
Oh. Hello, Raid.
That's for me.
That's for me. Quick question. Actually, the book did you print this digitally or offset?
Offset.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I use Marquise printing and.
Okay, I know Marquise. That's what I use as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I use Marquee and TC. So I was curious. I always like getting. So now that when I talk to them, I go, I want this for my cover.
yeah, they'll have it.
That's good to know. Yeah, it's funny. The first time I talked to them, I pulled up a bunch of references from what do you call it, out of the woodwork, and they're like, how do you know all these people? And I'm like, comics is a small community in Canada. Like we all talk, because I was bringing up all these examples of other books they printed. They were just like impressed. But yeah, they do good work. We had our Mr. Monster was the last book we did with them, and we're just waiting on Sheldon Carter's book, the novel, our first novel that we've done through Kickstarter. So
wow.
Yeah, that was an interesting. It was an experiment. We weren't sure how well a novel would do, but Sheldon's crew, they smoked it. So. I'm excited. I think we're receiving the books in about 2 to 3 weeks, I think. So
I think we'll have it in time for Fan Expo?
That's the hope. It's going to be tight if it happens. But it would be nice if we could have it for Fan Expo.
Are you going, Derek?
I'm not sure. I didn't book yet. I was sort of waiting. I mean, the whole COVID thing, I wasn't sure exactly how things were going to go down.
Yeah.
Also because, like we kind of talked about earlier, how I made more of a shift towards my own IPs. I was sort of thinking because we had this big, long layoff, I usually would sell fan art at the cons, and it does great money, and that's great. It pays for, the convention, and I make that pockets of money. But I was kind of thinking, like, is now the time to sort of really just sell my own stuff, at least put that, in the forefront. And I was a little bit like wondering if, because Toronto's pretty expensive, like just when I go. And I've become spoiled. I don't like to like stay in a cheap motel or anything. So,
you have standards.
I do. So I sort of like said to myself, like, I don't know if I want to like, go to a lesser place at this point and slum it. So.
Well, I mean, we should talk afterwards because we can always help you with some of the fees on tables and stuff like that.
Yeah, probably the table space.
And there's actually some good hotels. They're a little bit farther out, but they may be half the price, basically. Right. But they are pretty nice. Because Eric, I mean, Eric crashes at Hotel Perez every time he comes, so he gets the free deal basically. Maybe I should make him start cooking or something or paying for dinner.
That's dumb talk. That's really dumb talk. I don't like any of that talk.
But
we got a couple of questions here. In
okay, Avalanche. What? Ooh, it's so ready for Ramón Patreon. Oh boy, danger.
Eric was asking what we're making tonight. Well, I think we kind of talked about that. Like, we're all trying to figure out.
Hey, Roy.
Hello there. And then Sarah was saying, where did she say?
Oh, something about a print.
Well, there'll be a super special stream for the Raid 4 Kickstarter.
Well, we are streaming that night. We're trying to figure out what to do. We're thinking maybe having the whole crew on, and maybe having a draw for some original art we could maybe auction off during the campaign or whatnot. So keep attention, and we will try to have something there for sure.
Yeah, we should definitely do something like that. That'd be really cool. Have everybody on. We can even do a little preview of some of the artwork and stuff in it.
Oh, for sure. No, we gotta support the crew. We have like 16 creators in this book that are just killing it. So we're looking forward to sharing the book finally. We were actually supposed to take it to print last year, as Derek knows, just so many walls came our way. We were just like, you know what? let's just wait till 2022.
Yeah, that was a smart play, I think, at the end.
Yeah. I mean, the only dangerous plan is, I don't know if you've experienced this a little bit, Derek, when you were taking things to the press, but paper prices are going up. And it's funny because it's like we just had a quote on Volume 2 of Forest Folk, which will be helping Dax run in a month or so. And the prices for the exact same specs were about $3,000 to $4,000 more.
Oh wow!
Yeah. It's scary how much. Yeah, nothing like starting a publishing movement while paper prices are going up. So yeah, I mean it's still cheaper than when it was a decade ago, but I hope these prices stabilize. I think the pandemic really kind of messed with supply chains and diversion of because everybody keep telling me it's because paper suppliers started making boxes for shipping because everybody was shipping so much over the pandemic.
Amazon.
Yeah, everything. So basically a lot of they halted production on paper and moved over to producing just boxes for shipping.
Jesus.
So that's what actually has caused the weird glut in and shortages.
Well, maybe we can sell books on cardboard.
Yeah, we could. We could do it. Cardboard books. Yeah, why not? Why not?
Oh, she got a art print with no name on it.
That was the I'm a Unique Corn, right? Yeah, that's by Danish.
That makes sense.
Danish Mohiuddin. I'm probably butchering his last name there. He's an amazing guy. Danish actually has a Kickstarter going on right now called
Yes, he does.
Timeless Characters, where he's done an infographic of like popular cartoon animated characters beginning at the turn of the century of like the 1900s to as far as recently as The Mandalorian, basically. Yeah, there we go. Here's Rob bringing it up, and it's an amazing poster with all these characters, with correlating them to political and global events around the world. So it's if you don't know Danish's work, check it out on Instagram. It's at Danish DANESHMO. And his work is phenomenal. It kind of reminds me of old Mad Magazine work from the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, we've been sharing that quite a bit there, Sarah. Like, I think I backed it. I wanted to get myself drawn in there.
Is that how it works? Is that
1975? You do yourself. He hand draws you in the time.
Oh, okay.
I was like, I'm gonna be easy with the beard and the hat. That's gonna be easy.
That's true. And what era do we put you in? Was the year you were born? Is it like you
I
just
assume we
waving?
spot you into like 1975, right?
That's awesome. I didn't know that. I still have to back it. I figure I'll do that this week sometime. It's
coming in
been
hot.
crazy. Do you find it a lot of work, Derek, to build the Kickstarters, or do you get a lot of help from some friends or anything like that?
No, I do them myself. It's at the point now where I think it takes me about a week and a half, 2 weeks. Prep time just to kind of like build the graphics for it. I have to do a lot of research just to make sure I'm going to hit my pricing on all the items I want to do, and it's all just pre-planned, right?
Yeah, it's true. Like every item you want to add on is a stretch or whatever it might be. You got to know what it's going to cost you.
Yeah,
I mean, I'll be honest. I've done a bit of it on the fly because you get excited and you're like, oh, this might be a great idea, and then you kind of are like, oh, maybe we should have done that. But
it should be a Kickstarter on how to do a Kickstarter.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
I think there was one. Will Terry.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I did a book on doing Kickstarter. So.
Oh, okay. It would have been better if that Kickstarter failed, because that would have been.
Yeah, Will's a friend of mine. I'm like, I hope this doesn't fail, buddy.
That's funny.
Oh man. So what kind of work is your? I'm gonna say day job, but your freelancing job.
Freelancing.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of all over the board. So I do a lot of toy design stuff, and like working for Hasbro and Mattel. I did a lot of branding things, not so much anymore, but for Marvel, I did all their young superhero adventure line.
Okay.
That was like, so if you go and like buy your kid underwear, and they're like toddlers, they'll probably have my Spider-Man on there.
Oh, okay, okay.
Stuff like that. And so I they pretty much adapted, or I adapted my chibi style.
Right.
And that's sort of that's what I did for them. I also did the same thing for DC. Around the same time, which was sort of an interesting little.
I bet.
I'm like when DC approached, I was working with Marvel. I'm like, I'm doing the same thing for Marvel. Are you sure? And then we ended up changing up the style and stuff. So you kept.
Oh, you had to differentiate a little bit. You kind of mixed it up.
Yeah.
Okay, that's smart.
So that was cool. But I do like a lot of stuff for Topps over the last couple of years for their digital app. They do like. They brought me on as one of the first artists to do like original card art for their digital app. Okay. And so that was cool. And I still do a lot of stuff with like Disney and Star Wars and Marvel.
That's cool. That's
that
awesome, man.
So that sort of scratches my fan art itch, I think.
Yeah.
Where since I'm doing a lot of stuff myself now. So that's pretty much like, toy design. And then I do a few character design jobs here and there for various studios.
Okay.
Those like spring up every once in a while.
It's funny that you mentioning Topps, because last night I was watching a movie review of Garbage Pail Kids. And the opening sequence is a Topps movie presentation. And I was like, I never knew they actually invested money in film back in the day when they were doing these crazy cards.
I think I saw that in theaters. That's how old I am.
Oh my god!
Amazing.
I remember seeing it when I was younger. I don't know if it was in the theater or not. I was a bit of a VHS kid, always renting at the local convenience store.
Right.
But I did buy a lot of cards. When I have a lot of Indiana Jones and Star Wars cards from when I was a kid. Which I still have, actually.
I was all into the Marvel cards. Remember
Yep.
I got all
Series
kinds
2 especially. I had a lot of Series 1, but Series 2 is where I sort of really jumped in.
Okay. I know I have some of those still, but I don't know which series it would be.
Were the Topps the foil ones? Yeah, the foil, the silver foil. Because I remember getting a bunch of those. I think that's the Topps, but maybe not.
Maybe.
I think Topps did most of the cards for Marvel at the time. I think in the 90s, right? We're talking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm actually looking at your piece here, Derek. You jumped pretty quickly in from loose pencils into finished inks. Is that
Yeah, well, my inks are sort of like a cross between a pencil and an ink, so I just sort of skip ahead. It saves me time.
100%. Yeah.
And I kind of like the rough look, especially for this book. So.
No, what you did for Raid 4 was amazing, and I love how you incorporated the Zipatone. Oh yeah, I have these. Those are
I got
fun.
all those.
Yeah. Those are cool. Arthur Adams, they're doing a couple there. Well, yeah.
Yeah, the art's amazing on those cards.
Oh my god, they were so. Some of the that era of Marvel, it was so influential in my art. I guess identity. I don't know if you call it that, but.
I spent a lot of time copying those cards. Like that was my training. As a 12-year-old, 13-year-old.
Yep.
Drawing those.
Yeah, they were awesome.
Did a lot of tracing of McFarlane stuff. It's so cool. It's just so cool to see. Like, wait, I drew that. I mean, I traced it, but I drew that.
Yeah.
This pencil does work. It's not me. It's not the pencil. I mean, it's actually me that's really bad.
So were you McFarlane?
So I was gonna say the next step was like trying to like 1-to-1 it. You have the thing right next to you, and you're like, I'm nailing this.
Try and copy it. Yeah.
I used a lot of the Marvel Universe books because they always had a nice. They were a little bit larger, obviously, because they were a comic, but they often had kind of the same array of artists. You'd often have like an Arthur Adams in there, a Mignola somewhere. It was always a joy when you opened up the issue and you got a few names that you liked, because it was the luck of the draw. You didn't know who you were going to get, obviously. Yeah, totally. And it's cool. I mean, a lot of these guys are still working today or doing some cool shit, which is nice to see.
You guys ever watch Cartoonist Kayfabe?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, those guys have really sparked a lot of my childhood, stuff I'd sort of forgotten about.
Yeah,
they'll bring something up, and I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because they're looking, because I think they're just slightly younger than us, so they're looking at a lot of the stuff that they've never seen before. Unless there's that third guy that comes on, I can't remember his name, that he'll often bring in some like Michael Golden Star Wars or something like that, or whatever it might be. But it's funny, yeah, because they're bringing back a lot of the stuff that I read as a kid, but I find they're also discovering some of that now through the bargain bins, or whatever it might be. But I love the episodes where they have just the raw discussions they have with, like, I think they had one with Mignola. They've had that one with all kinds of great individuals, and those are my favorite episodes because you just get to have them kind of just geek out and chat with whoever it might be about some seminal work they've done over the years, right? So. Two great guys, and very supportive of the indie comic scene, which I like too.
Yeah, I find that it's one of those things that I think doesn't get a lot of attention. So it's nice to have a platform. Really focused on it. Yeah,
and their love for the stuff is so tangible; you can just feel it, like when they're talking about this stuff.
It makes you excited.
Yeah, and the thing I like about it too is like. They'll bring on stuff that not necessarily the other one is liking. So they'll I can't remember what it was. It was one episode where I can't remember who brought it on. It was I think it was like a Western or something, and the other guy was like, no. Yeah, it's got horses in it. I'm not going to read it, or something like that. And they just were like. It's just kind of funny to hear them argue, but also just respect each other's choices too. Like, I might not normally pick this up, but I'll check it out because you like it or you're recommending it or whatever it might be. It's kind of nice to see that.
Sarah asked if y'all watch Boba Fett, and I have not.
I'm Sarah. You don't want to hear my opinion on Boba
Fett. You're too close to it, Ramon. You're too close to it.
No.
Oh, you're losing fans, Ramon.
You don't want to have a candid discussion?
No, I mean I would, but it's just like I was not impressed with the series. I was it wasn't a story that needed to be told so far, in my opinion.
No.
And basically, like I watched a few reviews on it just to kind of like get other opinions on it. But one thing I thought was a simple observation was because like Tamura is I think he's in his late 60s now, or something like that. And this is supposed to take place literally like a month or two after Return of the Jedi, right? So, which is maybe 10 years after. Oh, sorry, no, it's like 20 years after. I think the prequels or something like that. I can't remember the actual timeline. So, like, he should be like 20 years younger in the series. So, like, he just looks like a crazy old man with dentures and like
Yeah,
like the brightest, whitest dentures ever. And I'm like, what is going on here? You know?
it's more reason to keep the helmet on more, but they didn't.
Yeah. I was just like, the character, like, I'm all for characters evolving, don't get me wrong.
Sure.
Characters will evolve as long as the path that you set for that evolution makes sense. And the fact that he was so tied to Tatooine and he's going to protect the people of Tatooine. And I'm like, you just literally woke up from some creature's stomach where you were a badass bounty hunter. You almost died. Some sand people helped you alive, but there wasn't enough of that transition of the character to make sense for me. Like, I don't know. It was just weird.
I feel like it was a product of the Mandalorian coming and being successful, and the studio probably not wanting to, repeat sort of that same type of thing. So they're like, you can do a Boba Fett, but we need it to be completely different.
Yeah, 100%.
And we can't have his helmet on all the time because the audience, the way studio producers think, they're like the audience will be confused.
Yeah, no,
it's the Mandalorian, or whatever.
100%. I agree with that. Yeah, no.
I can imagine that conversation in the boardroom.
Yeah, because I'm just like, what's going on? Like, I was like watching and going, what's going on, guys? Like, especially when the mods show up, and I was like, what?
Oh, the mods, that was like, it made no sense for them to be there.
No, like, I mean, if it was Coruscant, I would kind of let it go, but
sure,
I was just like, what? And the characters had there was no depth to any of these characters at all.
No.
So yeah, it got and it's like I love like Boba Fett. I have like Eric could attest to this. I have a 6 foot tall Boba Fett in my house mannequin, like that was given to me years ago as a gift from a beloved client. But he was my favorite character, aside in the bad guy realm.
Right.
But it's I'm not one of those fans that is like ravenously you have to adhere to like that. I don't like change. It's more like I want that change to make sense. Mm-hmm. The explanation, the evolution of the character, or whatever it might be. So I think my favorite episode I think was I've been watching
the Mandalorian one.
Well, that was a good. I mean, it's funny how that's the best episode of the series, in my opinion. But I think of the first four, the strongest I think was episode 3, which I want to say that's the episode Filoni directed, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. When Rodriguez wasn't directing, it seemed those were the stronger ones. So I kind of, as much as I used to love Rodriguez movies, Sin City and Desperado, and but I feel like we got more of a Spy Kids.
100%. Yeah, 100%. Yep. For sure.
Which is a shame, and it could have been a lot better. But
for sure.
I mean, at the same time though, like there is little bits of fan service in there, and it was. I watched it with my oldest son, who's 10, and he didn't mind it. He liked Mandalorian better, but
yeah, there's some cool fan service and neat things. Playing up to the fact that he's riding a monster because he rode the monster in the cartoon,
right?
And different things. Even though I'm like, dude, why don't you just get your ship and just shoot everything? Like, I was just like, instead of destroying the town with this creature. Like, it's like, I'm here to protect the people, but my pet here was going to destroy half your town while doing it.
I think I'd be like horrible in a writer's room because I'd be like, why? That makes no sense. Why would he do that? Like, they'd be like, no, but it's fun. And you're like, yeah, but that makes no sense. Like, he would not destroy the town with this thing.
I'm the same way. I feel like I would be a horrible person to have it because I'd be like, okay, but explain to me why this character does this.
Right. Yeah.
But I find a lot of films and TV shows are kind of putting spectacle before character development, and I don't want to generalize this across the board because there's some great TV shows out there that are very character driven. Mm-hmm. But I found lately, especially with a lot of the shows that have large fan bases, there's a lot of fan service happening and stuff, which is cool, but it shouldn't drive the show, or the spectacle of the thing shouldn't drive it over, the idea of how does this work in this world or the story, or whatever it might be, right? Hey, Alexia, how you doing?
Alexia. Thanks.
I always find
it is Kookaburra. You are seeing correctly.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah,
I can't believe it either.
I know no one can either. Can I? The one thing I always speculate. Like, I recently rewatched the prequels, and I know the much hated prequels, but despite what you say about them, and there were some cringeworthy moments in those prequels.
Sure.
At least everything made sense to the evolution of the world and the characters. And I recently watched, not recently, I guess now it's been a couple of years, but I watched the Clone Wars saga, which cartoon series, and that show is amazing because the character development, not only from the main characters, but even like the secondary characters and tertiary characters, and how they interplay with the world, and how the politics and war and all this stuff. And you could just see like Filoni chatting with Lucas when that was going on, and there are a lot of ideas that Lucas abandoned from the trilogies that he put into the cartoon as well. And so despite some of the clunky dialogue in the prequels or the awkward love scenes, at least I feel like they add to the world and they build on it rather than take characters down these weird paths that make no sense.
Right.
So I don't know. That was
I thought it was just a feat of genius to be able to take this relatively small period of time between movies and create this epic whole thing with Ahsoka and
oh my god, yeah,
cool Yoda stories, and just really really putting a lot of depth into the characters that didn't exist from the movies, and it made me appreciate the movies some more.
Oh yeah, no, it was funny because I always looked at the animation. I was like, oh, this looks stupid. I thought
right.
the animation looked a bit clunky when I was first saw the ads for it, because I was a big fan of the what's his name, Taranovsky.
Did you watch? Because the movie they made a Clone Wars animated movie, and that wasn't very good. You can tell they were still trying to figure out their art style. Yeah, and I think that put me off. And the actual show itself, especially third season on, they've really started to ramp up the art.
Oh my god! By that last season, the animation was phenomenal. They had really created something unique and interesting. I did watch that movie, and it would look clunky, and for me it was from a character standpoint, by the end of the first season I was hooked. After I got over the hump of maybe the first 3 to 4 episodes where it was a little bit awkward.
Right.
And then with every season after that, I was just give me more. I love this so much.
Sarah only watched Star Wars in 2019. Come on. There we go.
I'm about to hurt some feelings, was it? The OT tropes played out, but the sequel trilogy, it's a whole, that's another discussion. I thought they could have done. I thought Force Awakens was actually a decent start, even though it was kind of mimicking the original trilogy, or A New Hope. And I actually like things like It's not perfect, but Rogue One I quite like.
Yeah, Rogue One's solid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we're in the same wavelength for Star Wars.
Yeah.
And when all these points you're making, I'm like, yeah, that's how I feel.
Yeah, I'm pretty forgiving. So like I just like all of it. Whatever. I love the world. I love all the stuff.
I love the world. Yeah.
For sure, there's problems, but I'm like I'm entertained. That's all.
Well, for me,
I love Rey. I think she's a great character. She's a great actress.
I think Rey was I was eager to see Rey's journey. I was eager to see Finn's journey, but for me, it was they had
ruined his journey. But
they butchered his journey after after the first movie.
That's too bad. He's good.
Oh yeah, I know. Like this is like such a rare opportunity, such an interesting character that you take it and you're now just doing absolutely nothing with it other than comical jokes every so often, right? And then the whole thing with Rey's journey too, I was just like, you had me and then you lost me. You know what I mean? And so, but anyways, I think there are some good things and bad things, but I feel like as a company who bought or paid that much money for an IP, they would have planned better. That was
that's the most baffling. Just the fact that you couldn't bring a writer in to be consistent across storylines for 3 movies. Like how you don't plan that arc.
Yeah, that was.
I don't understand how that works. Like I have no idea.
Yeah, like I was just like, what? But you know what? That's their money. It's like,
True.
Yeah,
I'm sad to see some of the things butchered, but at the end of the day, I still have the stories I enjoyed, the books, the comics, the movies.
Well, it just leaves room for us to do even better with our own stories, right?
Oh, exactly right. There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Oh no.
You are interested in watching any new movies coming out, Derek? Anything that you've seen? I'm looking forward to seeing the Batman. That's for sure.
Yeah. I haven't been to a theater in forever, but I was fortunate enough. I just built like a basement theater. Before the pandemic, like it was like a year before the pandemic. So then I was like, "Oh, this is great! Now I don't have to go to the theater." So now I just wait until
Eric's probably like, "Where's my invite? What's going on here?"
Yeah, I mean, I'm in London, Derek. I don't know.
Come on over. I mean, it's $20, but I can pause it.
I don't got that kind of money. I buy Kickstarters every year, maybe, but.
Oh no, that's awesome. Yeah,
I'm
actually
seeing Dune at all.
What's that?
You end up seeing Dune?
I did. Yeah, I just actually saw it last week.
Yeah, and my wife and I went to the theaters when it was still allowed to.
Yeah.
What'd you think of it now?
What'd you think of it?
Oh, I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Yeah,
for sure. Yep. I like the first one. I think it's bananas and awesome. And
you mean the David Lynch one? You mean?
Oh yeah, it's great.
Oh really? Okay.
I love he said he likes everything.
That's true. He does. He says there's no accounting for taste, but okay, he likes.
I have an open mind, man. I'm a very forgiving.
Sure, you can paint it any way you like.
I just want to prepare people for when they see Arden that they're like,
Eric's better than us.
Yeah. Yeah, people are like, "What's going on in this story?" He's like, but I like it. It's got everything.
Anyway,
I enjoyed like Dune visually was a spectacle. Like I saw it in IMAX as well, and I enjoyed it. I think it's not perfect by any means. I thought, and this is me not having read the original stories. I've never read the original books, but I had a hard time kind of caring for. I think the actor's name was Timothée Chalamet. Is that right?
Timothée Chalamet or something.
Yeah, Chalamet. Yeah, like his character, I was like, But I mean, he's playing the character well. I'm just not sure if I like the character.
Right.
But overall, like visually, I also find it interesting to draw out a book so much where not much. I mean, a lot happened, but it also felt like not much happened. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
like you had the big wars, the attacks, all this stuff, and then you're kind of like, oh, they're just walking through a desert. Okay, so I was like,
yeah, I was a little curious that they did that in 2 parts. I mean, I'm excited for it as well because there's more.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool, like visually. I a lot of times I'm okay with a movie as long as I'm pleased with the visuals. Like the story, I'm like, yeah, whatever. I didn't write it, and whatever. But like, if the visuals, if the aesthetic is there, and
as an artist, you get offended if it's not a visually pleasing movie.
Yeah, it looks great, but the story, who cares?
I'm not, well, it's not like I just you know what? It's like I realize this isn't going to go well, so I'm just going to enjoy the film for what are they trying to do? I'm okay. Well, the aesthetics are really appealing. I like the good gear. That's really cool. So I try to find the good in everything. Okay?
So what's your guiltiest pleasure, Eric? That is like perhaps the most horrible story, but the most beautiful visuals that you can't get enough of.
Oh, I like Man of Steel a lot.
Oh yeah,
yeah, I love that film.
What about the visuals?
Well, the music. I like what's his face?
Henry
the
Cavill.
actor. What's his name?
Oh, Cavill's awesome. Yeah,
he's awesome. And I just dug it. Even the I don't know, just all of it. I was like, that's cool. And I'm like, yeah, not everyone really liked that. They had all these problems with it. I'm like, whatever. I liked it. But I also like a lot of the last trilogy of the Star Wars, which I know are awful for a lot of reasons, but visually they were fucking cool. Some of that shit. I was like, yeah,
okay,
I loved it. Yeah, don't ask me to. Yeah, I don't know anything.
Oh no, this is important because if you're no, but this is important because you're writing your own story. You're creating something.
Well, that's why I have Sheldon, the writer.
You're like, I didn't write. I just drew it now.
I will write it. I'm gonna draw. I'll draw it, but the writing, I got to give it to somebody who knows what he's doing. But I don't know.
I'm curious. I'm excited to see what Villeneuve does with the series because I did like where he started. A little bit slow. Like I never did not like it. I just thought it was a little bit slow and drawn out in areas where it could have been maybe a little bit tighter. Basically, is all I'm saying. But overall, it's a beautiful movie. You know. So
yeah, I think that's what everyone kind of says. Yeah. Derek,
I can imagine like doing that kind of thing though. It's just the budget and the pressure from the studio and all that stuff. Like, whew,
oh yeah, immense.
you know.
I was saying to Rob, I want to start doing like question we ask every episode. So Derek,
Yeah,
one of them. We're going to work on this. We're going to add questions to this as we get through this. But one of the questions I was thinking is, did you have any other job that you were interested in or a career that you were like, and even sometimes you're like, fuck drawing. I wish I was doing this.
Eric's like bartender.
And what were they and why?
You know, when I was like grade 6, I had this like, at least I would tell people I wanted to be a dentist. I don't know why. I never took care of my teeth.
I didn't expect that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it was like a weird like thing, and I think it only lasted for like a year. And I think
hilarious.
by grade 7, I was convinced I was just going to do art for a living. Probably because I sucked at school, and I'm like, I'm not gonna, amount to any doctoral.
My dentist dreams are gonna have to wait.
Yeah, they're gonna.
Did you go to art school, Eric?
I did. Yeah, I went
Derek?
to Sheridan.
Okay,
Yeah,
you as well. Okay.
Yeah, I was actually
did,
the
yeah.
year. So okay, because you guys obviously know Dax.
Yep.
So we went to high school together.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He was 1 year ahead of me. We played football together.
Get out of town. Okay.
Yeah. So, and Dax was vicious, by the way. I believe he was a DB, and not the biggest guy, but man, he hit hard.
I could see that. He's got this stocky frame, I could see him barreling through people.
Yeah. Like I played fullback, and I was like, 6'2", 260 playing fullback, and he would take me down. Like,
wow.
And he was maybe like 170. And
damn.
So so anyway, we were in the same art class together. Even though he was a grade ahead of me, I don't know why. Maybe he failed art. No, I'm just kidding.
That makes sense.
So that was kind of cool. But we can both admit that our art teacher in high school sucked.
Oh man,
I actually
he didn't appreciate comics. Let's just say that.
Screw that guy. What was I gonna say? It's like you rarely hear of an artist being on a football team. That's like usually two different groups in high school. You know what I
Right,
mean?
yeah,
You're crossing boundaries back then, or you had a very open-minded high school that you were a part of.
I was big into soccer and
Yeah, but soccer's not the European sport that I played soccer too, but football that's where the heavy duty jocks were. You have the artists maybe dabble in track and field or something.
I
But
played football with the football team.
stop making things up, Eric.
Okay, I didn't do anything. I like Star Wars. What about you, Ramon? What did you want to be outside of this if it wasn't art?
I mean, to be honest, I never really seriously thought about other career paths. I think when I was applying to post grad, like I was looking at architecture, fashion design, because I really didn't know what I could do with art. Aside from like when I was younger, like those little books you filled out when you were in grade 5. You're like, what do you want to be? I want to be an astronaut. I had those, but that's not real. I think growing up, I was just like, I knew I drew and I liked drawing, so I was like, eventually I was like, well, you know what, I'm going to do something with this. And it wasn't until a friend of the family introduced me to Sheridan and the option of what they were presenting, because I was applying to like universities for fine art and I didn't like any of it. And then I discovered Sheridan in their animation program, but then also their illustration program. And I remember going there for like an open house, and it was just blown away by kind of the knowledge of what they were kind of unloading in the program. And I was like, wow, this is like, I was getting excited of like how to draw a chair properly in perspective. I was like, this is amazing.
Well, there's nothing like walking down the halls of Sheridan and seeing all the art on the walls, right?
Yeah.
Whoa,
It was super inspiring. Yeah. So that was kind of, that was kind of me. Like I didn't really, if I were to look at it in retrospect, if I wasn't an artist, I'd probably, like, I do a lot of stuff with my hands. Like, I love working on my motorcycle or doing construction. As you know, Eric, you've helped me out a few times. Like, I love building things. And when I was a kid, I used to help my dad build things.
Right.
So, I think that was probably, like, a natural extension of my art skills. Like, I would even take apart mechanical toys and put them back together just to see how they worked. So my dad always thought, like, I'd go into robotics or something like that. Boy, did I disappoint him. I went to comic books.
Were both your parents supportive of art?
My mother was very supportive. She put me, it was funny because, like, I remember when I was in grade 5 or maybe 4, she put me in night school for art. So I was like this kid with these like 25 plus individuals, like, and I'm like keeping up with them, which was hilarious. And so she was very supportive. She was the kind of one that gave me my first like art lessons as a kid, and it's funny because both my parents had artistic skills to a degree. Like my dad was a mechanic, but he had this beautiful sketchbook of cars he would draw. You know what I mean? So like his skill set fed into his actual passion, which was mechanics. But he would draw all the gears. He would draw these blowouts, and I carried this book, or I destroyed this book. Actually, he got so mad at me because I think I left it out and got it wet in the rain one day or something. But to this day, like I could still flip through it, and I was still amazed at the skills he had. And maybe given different circumstances in his life, he might have pursued something artistic. But he came back from a very old world country where, you're here to feed the family and do whatnot, and art just wasn't an option, right? So I could see that skill set there, but he never really approved of me. I think his sentiment was, you get the first round, I'll cover that, but if you fuck up, don't come crawling back to me. So
my dad was like, art, eh? Well, Toronto needs a lot of spot welders. You should go up there. I'm like, Dad, these hands are like hard work. There's no calluses. I'm an artist. Man.
It's probably a good thing you weren't a spot welder, because you'd be like, you know what? It's good enough. It's like it's like the writing in that movie I saw. This will hold up the building.
We had a good question posed earlier there.
What was it?
From Roy here.
Oh, has anyone of you experienced someone asking for a refund on artwork or a project? Would you like to know about your policies for that? Oh man,
Well, I haven't had like a project, but I mean, I've definitely had people ask my money back for like a commission they asked for me when I was at a show or something. And I've already started this. I'm like, look, I'm almost done here. So, I think if I hadn't started, I would just give the money back. But for projects, no, I haven't had projects yet. That's a tough one.
I've had clients who kill fees on a project, not necessarily because they didn't like what they were seeing, but perhaps the company's direction or MO changed with something, right? So they basically had to shelve the thing. But that kind of stuff is covered in your contracts, that you have with your clients as a freelancer. Speaking to like commissions or something, I've declined stuff and I've returned money because I didn't have time to do something. But I've never had. I remember one time years ago at a show. I think it was New York or maybe Chicago. Someone. It was a larger commission that I was paid to do at the show, and it was an X-Men character. I can't remember the name of the character right now, and it was actually one of my favorite things I was working on. So I kept putting it off till the end of the week or end of the weekend at the con because I was trying to formulate like a really cool shot in my head, a composition. And so when I finally got to it on the last day, in the last 3 hours of the show, I blew it out, but it was like my favorite thing I'd done all weekend. And the guy who was picking it up thought it took me. I worked on it too fast. Like it didn't take me enough time for what he felt he paid for it.
Oh,
and it was funny because I'd already posted it to Instagram, and everybody was loving it, complimenting the piece and stuff like that. And I even told the guy, listen, I can give you your money back. I'll just resell it somewhere else. I really, don't care. But he eventually kind of shrugged and kept the piece. But I found it
like,
weird.
You don't deserve this piece. Give it back.
But I found it weird because he was correlating speed, like he was thinking like I'd be spending these,
You're getting paid by the hour here.
Yeah, and it's like you try to tell people, it's like, yeah, I might not be working on it right now, but it's in my brain. I'm thinking about it.
Well, that's the hard thing, right? You spend a lot of time in your own head. Like,
yeah,
I do a lot before I touch pen to paper or pencil to paper. It's like I'm spending like so much time in my head just being like, how am I going to approach this? Like, there's one thing about just kind of sketching things out and like trying different things and it's like I got to figure out some of the bigger questions here, and then it's like, oh, you know what, I'm going to do it this way, and it's okay, and then away you go, right? So,
well, that's exactly it. And then there's also the fact that, like, as an individual, freelancer, you've been probably doing this for 20 years by this point. So what may have taken you, 3 days to do or 10 hours back when you first started, you could now do in 2 hours. Or three,
so you have strategies to handle certain things, right? Like you're like, okay, I know I'm confident to figure this out. I know how I'm going to do this now, and you've done similar things, or you've tackled these kind of problems before. So you're like, oh, I know how I'll handle this. I'll do it this style. I approach it this way, and problem solving, right?
And you also like you're better with your anatomy. You're better with different your skill. Your toolbox has improved. Basically, you've upgraded your tool set.
Yeah.
So.
There's another question there for you, Ramón.
Did that change your feeling about the piece, Ramón? Actually, no, not at all. Like I said, I love the piece. I still stand by the piece. I think it was a fun. It was like a simple piece. Like it wasn't like crazy extravagant, but the composition I thought was effective. It spoke to the character, and all that stuff. But I think a lot of things that happen in our industry is a lot of people equate time and also the amount of detail in a piece to quality of the piece, which I don't think is necessarily true. Like look at some of the best artists on the planet, like Magnola or Alex Toth. Like these are the guys who spent time removing lines, making it simpler. So that like even like Tonci Zonjic is like, I know he spends hours upon hours just with layouts and design. to make sure when he goes to that final piece, it looks simple. It looks like he might have like cranked it out in 2 minutes, but he's probably like beating his head for a week figuring it out and all the moving parts that go along with it, right? So I think that's a bad byproduct of.
Sarah's going to fight for us.
Swift knee kick. But I think all that detail is a byproduct of a little bit of like the 90s era comic art where it was like so much detail, like an extraneous amount was put in to things. Yep. Where people are like, oh my god, the pores, the seams on these costumes are wonderful. Has taken away from, and kind of maybe diminished the artists who have kind of simplified their styles and gone away. Yeah, so anyways, I don't know, but I still like the piece. I would have definitely kept it or resold it, no problem. So curious what he did with it. Maybe he took it home and ripped it up. He's like, fuck this guy.
Ramón who? Whatever.
I don't care about my money.
Yeah.
But it's funny because even like some of the commissions, like I know we've discussed like rates amongst ourselves over the years, and like I've had people like when they hear the price for whatever it might be, and they'll be like, well, for that kind of money, do you think you could like maybe throw in like a house in the background or maybe like do some more like stuff in the background with like. I'm like, yeah, you'll get a piece, like, but putting extra trees in the background doesn't equate quality. It's like what I'm doing is servicing the composition, it's servicing the image. So if it's like a heavy black or if it's whatever it might be, the choices I make are not to cut corners. I usually try to give it the best piece possible, in my opinion.
Yeah, I kind of lay it out right away, saying, look, this is what I do, and this is what you're gonna get. So if you don't want it, that's cool too. Like, so what do we got? Character you love.
That you love. I think it's you love, but you can't.
Yeah. Hey, Nigel. What's up?
Can't draw to save your life. Oh, interesting.
The one I'm working on right now. Man, I don't know.
I think
if it's like a really like something's really stylized character that's in that style looks great, and you try and do it in your own style, you're like, that's a fail. Like it's like if you try to do like realistic character, like a realistic like Akira, or you'd be like, it's just a dude. It's like
just a dude.
I don't know. It's like that's a tough one.
I think I like the challenge of translating a character from whatever I'm seeing to my style. That's always an interesting process, I think. I don't think anything is impossible to draw. I think the hardest hurdle for me is actually being interested to draw it. So I guess that speaks to him saying you love.
Can't draw Superman. I can't draw him to save my life.
certain characters are hard. Like I remember when I drew Superman, he's one of those characters that is so simple.
Right.
You know what I mean? And especially his face, I find. His face is very particular.
Yeah.
So I it's one of the few times in my career where I referenced a lot of other artists to see how they tackled the character, to see how, like, I basically went, who did I like, who drew him? And that kind of informed me on how I decided to tackle him, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, Superman's a good choice there, Derek. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, like, I'd start drawing it, but like my stuff always kind of defaults to kind of like an anime-ish kind of comic style because all the Capcom art I would do, and I'm trying to beat that out of my system a little bit, or at least try and like build upon it, and expand my horizon. But yeah, like I've been asked to do Superman for sure in my style, and I'm like, man, this is kind of a little hard because the thing with Capcom is they have pretty iconic like faces, and they have a style to the way they draw these characters that it's hard to draw them realistic in another style. So I think that's my only way that I could say that I have a trouble with is like I love a lot of the Capcom art, but like I have to draw it that style or it just doesn't look like Ryu. or do you drawn any other way? It doesn't look like it. Just looks like a guy in a gi. It doesn't really have the same energy. It's tricky, right? But
I find Hulk is also challenging. Getting a good Hulk face.
Just
Like
putting
the Hulk,
green
I
on
can do the Hulk
it.
body, but the Hulk face I always struggle
Yeah, the way his, like the proportions of his face are very difficult. Yeah, that's true. Even like what's it called? You just remind me of another character when you mentioned the Hulk. Oh, the Thing.
Oh,
Like I love drawing the Thing, but I find the Thing is like he's a character that an artist can draw or they can't draw. Because like certain artists just can't translate them into his style, which is funny because I think your style would actually work nicely with the Thing. That's funny. Funny that you say that.
It's the rock pattern. I can't stay consistent and keep a consistent rock pattern, and I just fuck it up every time. I've tried to do.
It's like too many octagons. I can't take it.
Yeah.
How far are you planning to take this story you're working on, Derek?
Well, this one in particular is about 20 pages, but I have 2 short stories written, and I say written, they're more like outlines, and then I write on the page.
Okay,
I'll show you just.
Yeah, so you don't work full script or anything. You work more storyboardy, I guess. It might be a good way to put it.
So, for instance, like I'll do roughs like this, and I'll start writing in my first draft of the script.
Oh, okay, nice.
That's great.
That's actually very smart.
Totally.
And so, like, I've done that for a few pages now. Just where I'm putting in the rough dialogue. I'm pretty sure, like, what I want the characters to sort of sound like, and it helps me find their voice. Like, as I'm helping them act on the page at the same time as I'm writing their dialogue, and it's a little bit of a back and forth. And then there'll be, like, just rewrites as I'm drawing. And like probably like it'll go through like 3 or 4 rewrites by the time I'm done.
Okay.
So yeah, it's just kind of a neat way for me to sort of do it. It's a
really cool
way I've sort of started to develop over time, and I'll probably change my method at some point. But
what's so good about that is that you've got the word bubbles, the story boxes. There's a flow, a natural flow, and you're making the art kind of fit around it in a way, like.
Yeah, because I do.
I feel like I do all the art first, and then I cram in the art with the word boxes, and it doesn't really work. Like,
right.
This is a great way.
I tend to like if I know like, I need a certain amount of space for a certain amount of text, or also maybe something feels a little empty, and I'm like, I could just throw something here.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a bit of a back and forth and a constant editing process. But
this is all the work right here. The next is just production work. That's just dog work. That's just like, okay, I gotta grind away on this. Well, that's the time, right? But
this is stuff you can like put a podcast on, put on music, and just go.
This is a tough work right here. It's like you get this locked down, you're set. The story rolls. If the story's good, and you got the placement of the bubbles and the boxes. All that scratchy artwork, that's just time. That's just time cleaning it up. But that looks great.
Yeah. No, I agree. This is a great way because I'm like Eric. I usually will have a rough idea of what they're talking about in my head.
Right.
Like I'll do is I'll storyboard the comic and then I'll have like rough notes beside my storyboards. But then I don't do this stage till after I'm done the final art, and then I'll often screw myself over, going it looks crammed or it's not right. So this is a great in between step.
I find that like I have ADD or something, but like when I'm making a story, I'll have like 10 different ideas while I'm doing it, and so this process sort of allows for that. If I'm just like, oh, you know what, this sequence would be really cool to have, or you know what, this ending could totally change, and if it's in this sort of rough stage, I don't feel bad about trashing it. Or
it's a great methodology here. I'm gonna. You're inspiring me here.
I'm totally stealing this. And now Arden's going to be best.
It's going to be best. Those word boxes make them work.
And that's the kind of stuff I share on Patreon. So if you go and join my Patreon.
Hey, there you go.
Nice.
No, totally, man. Good segue.
Well,
No, this man, your storytelling, like your story flow and telling is impeccable. So, highly recommend people go and check out your Patreon.
I think we got to do a raid Patreon one day, my friend.
I mean, I have a raid Patreon. I have a Ramón Patreon bookmarked. Like I've actually built both sites, but never press the button to launch them because I'm like, I don't know. Like it's just
talking to Mr. Joe Vereen yesterday about some ideas, and I think at the Raid Retreat next month we got to sit there and I think there might be a serious approach.
It's something I want to do. Like I've always I know it's a good thing. Like it's one of those things. Like I know it would be a good move, and I think.
The only thing is someone has to run it. That's the problem.
That's the problem. Yeah.
Who's got the time to do it? Like I know Rob, he's a busy guy, but maybe he could run the Raid Patreon. But because Joe and I had all these great ideas, I'm like, yeah, that's cool, but someone has to. Do it.
That's the problem. Like, it's like when we, it's just like you build all this stuff, and I mean I love building the stuff, and I like making things work, but at the same time, it also takes away from my favorite thing, which is drawing stuff. Yeah, Rob's like, nope.
He's out.
But no, definitely. I think it's, but I'm kind of like leaning into a lot of the moves Derek has been making over the past several years, and something I speak to. I was gonna send out my what do you call it? My newsletter out today, and I lost track of time because I was just dealing with so much today, work-wise. But one of the things I was touching upon in my newsletter, which I guess I'll send out tomorrow or Wednesday, was the fact that in the next year, I want to make the move where I essentially drop the majority of my freelance work and go full into my own.
Totally,
that's awesome.
My own methodology, and I feel like now's the time where, I can pull that off. And I'm lucky in the sense that I don't have dependents. I don't have things that really suck a lot of money out of my pocket. So, it's basically a now or never kind of move. And,
that makes sense.
And so, like, I'd like to actually try that, and then Patreon, I feel, might be part of that whole model that I try my hand at, basically. But no, I totally love to work it out that way, basically.
Yeah. If you ever want to like chat about like strategies and stuff, like feel free to hit me up.
Oh yeah, no, I'd love to pick your brain a little bit more about that.
Nice.
Because it's
because it's a constant. I find, and this will just be something for advice for anybody for Patreon. Who's starting one, is that you're gonna constantly try things and they're gonna fail, and you'll try something else and that'll work, and you just kind of try to get a read on what your audience really wants from you. And I think that's a hard thing to ask, because even if you ask it outright, how people respond to what you're doing is kind of the telltale at the end of the day. I actually the interesting thing too is, like, you'd think, because you're paying for it, the engagement would be a lot higher. It's not as much still. It's still around that same engagement rate as like other social platforms.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's a little bit like you'll get your regulars that want to like give you their opinions and chime in on things and stuff like that. But it's interesting for sure.
Okay. Well, like I said, definitely a road I want to explore.
Yeah, have you guys thought about, like, I mean, I know a lot of artists are doing the Substack as sort of a alternative to Patreon, but I know they threw a lot of money at some of the bigger name, guys.
Yeah, I love those guys I love them are getting funded by it, and once
six-figure deals and stuff to go.
I know, I know a few of the people on there, and I'm like, I'm curious how it might go after the fact, but
right.
But I also I bookmarked Substack like with my name and everything like that. And the one thing I noticed with it, as a person who just followed a bunch of, I guess, Substacks, after the first week, I got tired of getting all this stuff in my inbox. Yeah, because I'd suddenly get like 10 or 20 like novel length newsletters with different things and stuff, and these are just the free ones, and I was like, I don't got time to read all this stuff. Like,
no.
So
I forgot about that, actually, because I know there was like a big Scotty Young was going on about that. I'm sure he's probably one.
Well, he's got a Substack, but he has someone else run it for him, right?
There we go.
That's the key.
Yeah.
But it's like you said though, but I think the difference is with Patreon, and why I sort of like to, like, as I support a few people on there, and I find like it's nice. I have a hub, and I can go and I can see all the updates from people that I've supported. So when I have the time, I can go in and dig into things. Yeah. As opposed to like that thing, it's in my inbox, and then if I don't have time to read it when I open it, I don't look at it again.
Yeah, and that's how I feel. Like that's why I keep leaning towards a Patreon, because I think I like that. You go somewhere and it's all there, and it's like grabbing a book off the shelf. You'll sit it, you'll read it for a while, you'll go through whoever you're following, and then you'll put it back, and maybe you come back in a month, a week, or 4 months, whatever it might be, right?
Yeah.
Whereas, yeah, with inboxes, for me, like I have OCD with my inbox. I like to keep it at like. Like when I see someone who has like 4,000 unread emails,
it drives me nuts.
Yeah, so like I at most will have like at the end of the day nothing is unread, but I also have only like maybe 10 in my inbox, and that still like stresses me. Like when I get it down to 5 or 3, I'm happier. You know what I mean? Because I file everything away into different folders after I'm done with it and stuff like that. But I would just my stuff the Substacks just get lost in my inbox because I get them, I look at them, and I'm like, I'm gonna file it away. I might read it, maybe not, and I really just never get to them because I don't want to look at my email more than I have to. Basically, I think is what I've come to realize over the past several years.
But I'm curious though. Like, I mean, the one positive I'll say about Substack is because you're tapping into your mailing list, you're blasting this sort of thing out to more people than say I do on my Patreon, unless I go and throw it on social media and sort of try to bring people in to what I'm doing. And that's kind of, I guess, maybe one advantage to Substack is that you're kind of, if you're already in this sort of space of doing a newsletter, it can be a way to kind of like pull in more people from that. But
yeah, like I mean, I run the studio newsletter and my own newsletter, and I try to get at least one out a month. And I think it's good because you are engaging, and you're from what my girlfriend tells me, like anything above like a 30% open rate on a newsletter is fantastic. So she's always surprised how many people actually open mine, which is good. But I just don't know how to I don't know about monetizing it to the point where you can make a living off of it or get enough money off of it to subsidize a portion of your lifestyle, which is I think what Substack is trying to do, but I could be wrong on that.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like, at least for somebody in my position, I don't think it would work all that well for me. No more better than what I'm doing on Patreon. And Patreon feels more like a community. Like I feel like that's one thing I kind of enjoy, is that I feel like I'm building a little community there.
Yep.
And that's kind of important to me as well, just to kind of have that connection, because I'm sitting here by myself all day. Yeah, my wife's around, but she's not in the room with me,
Yeah, that's what I like about things like the idea of Patreon or even Discord or stuff like that, where you can engage with groups and whatever, which I think for me would get lost. So like a newsletter is a free thing where I send out information and I engage a little bit is great. But yeah, having somewhere where you can kind of just sit and you're like, all the people who enjoy your work are there, and they're there just for you. They're not just some like thing that you scroll by on their feed or whatever it might be, because they've invested in you, right? I think is a really nice. So I don't know. It's just so many. I mean, on the flip side of all this conversation is like, it's amazing that all these tools are here now. Like even like 10, 15 years ago, trying to do any of this was impossible.
Publish your own book. Like, it was impossible.
I remember like when we did when Eric and I were doing Transmission X comics back in the 2007 to 9. Like I started to source publishing some books.
Yeah.
And like my heart almost just exploded with like the prices and things. I was like, yeah, how much? Oh my god, this will never happen. You know what I mean?
I remember Carl did the Abominable, his first thing, just after TX there, and I remember him telling us the price of that book was astronomical per book.
Yeah, I mean, he also put some crazy finishes into that book.
I think obviously he made it all back because he charged enough, but it was insane per book. It was like $40 per book to make or some shit.
No, it wasn't that high. It was like $17 or $18 per book.
It was like $17 or $18.
But he also put like fantastic paper. He had a textured cut. Like he did a lot. He had a gatefold. Like the book was well worth it. But yeah, back then, because I remember sourcing Kookaburra back then because I wanted to take it to print back then. And I wanted to do a 200-page book, and I think it would have cost me like $50,000 back then.
Jeez.
And now that same book might cost me 15,000, maybe 20, depending on where I go.
Wow.
So, which is still a scary number, but more attainable because now you have
it's not
things like
50,000,
Patreon, Kickstarter,
yeah.
or whatever, right? Yeah, you're not having to mortgage your house or something to make a comic book.
Yeah.
So, no, it's cool that all these tools are here and like they've made their way.
And plus with the Kickstarter, right? Like, I mean, going back to the Kickstarter, I mean, that's something that, you know, with that being there is that little bit of a safety net for you.
Yep.
To throw out that 20,000 to print something, or
For sure, yeah, exactly. You know,
No, the way things are going now, it's like so artist friendly. You just got to do the work.
Yeah.
You know?
And the other cool thing too is like back then, because I remember we were looking at micro payments for, like trying to get like some money for our web comics that we were doing back then, and it was just the early stages. I think the iPhone. What year did the iPhone come out? Like 2009 or something. I think it was. But like
Right.
people weren't used to paying for things online enough, and especially small payments. Like, you know what I mean? Like they weren't like, oh, what, $40 or $10 or that's weird. I don't feel comfortable putting my credit card on whatever this might be. But you know, fast forward 10 years later, and you know things like everybody has a PayPal or you have your Apple Digital Wallet on your phone. Like it's so synonymous with our lifestyle. People don't think twice about, you know, doing like a dollar purchase on their phone or whatever it might be, right?
I'm so scared of like. There's no way I want to pay with my phone. That still seems so weird.
Oh yeah, nah, I do that. That's yeah.
I know a lot of people do that. I'm like, what? That's too no. Who knows, right? Fuck, I don't know anything.
It's like you're Rip Van Winkle.
I don't even understand that. You're talking about there.
You know, it's something interesting I was thinking about was that, like, when I had Rune World published by Boom, and the money I was able to make from that, I can make that now just doing a Kickstarter.
Yeah,
For a book that's even small, like not as long and not, you know, it wasn't as much work. And so like it's getting to that point where, you know, just self-publishing, you can really, you know, make almost as much as you could, you know, getting something published.
Oh yeah.
And, you know.
No, I know a lot of creators who have gone that route just because of what you just said, because you know they'll make more money in doing that one publication than they would see in royalties from going with a small publisher, whether it be a Boom or an IDW or a Dark Horse, maybe even. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, there are still avenues that some of those publishers offer that might be helpful. Like I don't know if any of you follow. He does Beastlands. I'm trying to remember his name right now. Omar? No. I'm blanking on the guy's name right now, but he does a comic series called Beastlands, which he's run entirely through Kickstarter. And so he's made, I think his first Kickstarter, I think he made about $5,000 or $6,000 for the first comic, and by volume 6, and these are short, like comic length books, not like crazy length. He made over $100K on the final Kickstarter.
Wow.
And so he's already made his money off this thing. He's created it. Any extra money he pockets or pays for, you know, whatever extras he puts into the books. But now he, I think a couple months ago, he announced in his newsletter that he's Dark Horse will now be publishing the series, right?
Yeah, that's sort of the key too, right? Like if you can get that money initially and then publish after the fact,
Yeah.
then you're really laughing.
Yeah. So basically, of course, is paying to this book that's already done. So what depends on obviously whatever deal he struck up, but you know, at the end of the day, it's passive income for him, which allows him now to work on whatever other projects he has going.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of like a very nice position to be in if you can pull that off, right? So yeah, I agree with you. Like getting those, you know, getting on Kickstarter and actually creating this stuff, and you know, maybe subsidizing your income to the point where you can actually create and use that money to like my dream would be like run a Kickstarter. You know, you put whatever 20K or whatever it is into the book, and hopefully you maybe make maybe 50 or 60K, and maybe like you walk away with 20K or 30, and then you use that to fund your remaining year to work on the sequel or a new graphic novel or whatever it might be, right? It's kind of like each project is feeding the next, if you will. That would be kind of a very much a dream come true on
I don't think that's too unrealistic either. Like,
no,
that's what's exciting about these formats and these programs. It's like,
yeah,
it's actually quite attainable if you're going to put the work in, and you've established you're kind of active on the media, socials and stuff, and you have kind of an established, maybe a small fan base, but you grow it, like, because you're able to put more time into the thing you love, and the fans will react more to that. So it just, it's all there for the taking, really, I think.
Yeah,
I know as Raid, we're trying to dip into this more, which is great because we just want to make cool shit for everybody.
Yeah, I think that's at the end of the day, any one of us doing this kind of a job, or this is what we love to do, right?
Yeah.
I like how this was a sketch 20 minutes ago, and now it's almost done.
Rendered.
I love it.
I've done almost the page, but this I don't know. Something else is going to happen up there, so I'm just going to leave that.
That's interesting. I like that.
Is Photoshop anything or Clip?
What's that? Oh, it's a Clip studio.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah. Have you guys thought about putting out a Raid art book?
Not yet. The anthologies were kind of that to begin with. They were basically like the calling card for the studio. But they've kind of evolved now to what will hopefully be just a showcase anthology for creatives. I think I'm not opposed to doing an art book. I've never even done an art book for myself, like a sketchbook even for a con. It's so sad. I'd like to do one. I think maybe one day. I think the hardest part I find, especially I feel like that would be, well, maybe it might be easier than the anthology, but collectively getting everybody's art into one book I find can be very difficult to corral everybody. But not opposed to it. Not opposed to it at all.
I've found that the art book Kickstarters I've done, because I've mostly done art book Kickstarters.
Okay.
That's why you kind of
Yeah.
It's pretty much because it's work you've been working on and production stuff you've been doing for your projects anyway.
Mm-hmm.
By the time you're ready to put out that art book, the work's already done, and you're like, well, I might as well capitalize on this work that you've been posting, maybe on social media, but you collect it into a book. It's a great way to sort of maximize if that's part of your plan to, sustain more of your own personal projects. Those art books really do,
I think the key word of what you just said there for me is all the development artwork for your project.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. When I was a kid, I might be dating myself here a little bit, but I remember there was a bit of an era where a lot of companies put out these 0 issues of comics, and basically half the time these 0 issues were the only issue that ever came out. But it was showcasing maybe 3 or 4 pages of the comic to come, and a lot of world building artwork, character designs, vehicles.
I remember some of those from Image or Homage.
Yeah, and a lot of the time, some of these things just never came out. But I love that kind of stuff, I think definitely I would definitely lean into an art book that showcases at least a through line of if Eric were to do one, for example, I'd say, hey, let's do the art book.
Yeah.
100%.
Because it's the world building aspect that I like and the different character relations.
I have years of work and sketches.
Yeah.
I forgot about it. I think that's probably going to be tacked into our Kickstarter when we do it one day.
Yeah, so definitely I like that idea. But a random art book that just maybe has random art, I'd probably have a harder time because I don't sketch enough.
Right.
Stuff. But yeah, I totally monopolize or capitalizing on the work that you do to world build a comic or whatever it might be, for that matter. I think, it would definitely be a nice addition to anybody's bookshelf, especially if they're a fan of your work and to see your process and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I definitely like to.
It's a great tool. And also, if you think about it, let's say you have your Patreon. So you're posting that stuff to Patreon because you want to share your process with patrons, and then you're sort of creating, and then you sort of the same stuff you're making, you're going to put in your art book. So it's just it's something that actually Jake Parker had mentioned in one of his sort of YouTube things a few years ago, was just basically trying to maximize the artwork you're making. Like how much money can you make off this, character designing or whatever, and nothing feels like wasted that way. Like if I'm just going to just do a random character, maybe it doesn't get used on anything, but I feel like it's not a waste of my time by any means.
That's right. I agree with you. Like, I think it's a fabulous idea. And Jake's, he's notorious for that. Like, just the constant world building he's doing with, like, I'm blanking on the character's name, the mouse character. Skull Chaser and Missile Mouse. That's it. Yeah. Like, I remember, like, I followed him for years. I was like, there is actually no comic for any of these guys, except I think he did a Skull Chaser short, I think, in one of his sketchbooks. But for the most part, it's all world building with no. I know he's working on one now for Skull Chaser, I believe. But for years I'd be like, where is the actual book for all this stuff? It's like having all the art of the movie, but no movie. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and I bet you could probably pull off a bunch of art books for movies that have never been made by studios that have probably spent time developing them. I think it's a fabulous idea, and I feel like it's something like I've grown lax on because my freelance career as employed by Marvel or whatever it might be took off so well that I kind of neglected my own work, if that makes and that's kind of where that's where I've been sitting. Like the biggest thing on my mind over the pandemic has been, like, I don't want to. This is where I started. This is what I loved to do the most when I was a kid. I'd make up my own characters, my own stories. I never really did. I had friends who made stories for Marvel characters, and I never did that. I just I would maybe make my own version of a Marvel character or a DC character, but I never actually made up a story for, say, Batman. I just made up my own archetypal character like Batman and made up my own story for him. So it's interesting how, and then like I feel like I diverged too far off the path, and I'm like, okay, now let's get back on this thing where I feel like I belong the most.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think like I'm so excited about what we're doing with Raid. Like, we're finally doing all that cool shit, right? Like, and get to that point where we can hopefully be working our own stuff full time, right?
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Oh, we gotta do it sooner. We're gonna be dead.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
The clock is ticking.
Clock is ticking.
The clock is ticking, man.
You know what I found is like it was a big inspiration was so I was late to watching Miyazaki movies. Like I watched them for the first time when I was like 42.
Okay.
And like so only like I guess I'm 44 now. So it's like two and a half years ago. Basically, I started watching Miyazaki movies, and after I went through them all, and I loved them. Like and I'm like, here's a guy who like has made like 10 really good stories. And he's like in his 80s now and stuff. And I'm like, okay, I'm 40. I'm like, can I make 10 really good books or something by the time I leave the world? So that's sort of also a bit of a driving force. It's just like to keep kind of going and make something that you kind of leave behind.
That's definitely it, because it's scary to think like you've worked in this. You don't want to be that guy who's like, oh, I really loved his run on Spider-Man. That's like the best ever, which is cool.
Yeah.
But wouldn't it be cooler to have like, oh, so and so he created this character, and I love this character, and he's lived on some kid's wall or whatever, far beyond the lifespan of that artist or whatever it might be, right? I think that's kind of a cooler aspect. Like, when George goes, you still have Star Wars. When Ditko goes, you still have Spider-Man. So it's just these legacies and these characters that people fall in love with. It's just, Oh, man.
What's your end goal then, Derek? Like, is there a bigger story you have in your mind, or is there like some big plan that you'd like to get into one day that you're not there yet?
No, like I kind of feel like doing more comics is sort of always the goal. It's the hardest thing to do because I just find comics are the hardest thing to make.
They are hard, yeah.
The most and the most time consuming.
Yeah.
But it is also the most fulfilling. So I'm constantly, that's like my carrot, I guess, is the comics. It's just to kind of make more comics, find little strategies to, make more passive income and then make more comics from that. Yeah. And, I think that's kind of what it is. So I guess my goal is to build a library. It'd be nice to be able to retire, but like still be able to sell books, or something like that at some point. Little things like, like I was saying about my, hip injury or whatever, like when those things start to happen, you go, how long can I do this, at this kind of pace, right? And so there's that like kind of clock ticking in the back. And so I guess like really, I don't think there's like necessarily a story that I'm dying to tell that I haven't been able to yet, but there is always, I'm excited about the story that I haven't thought of yet. Like I think that's the thing that kind of excites me. So
I like that. I like that. That's a great answer, actually. That's a really good answer.
No, that's true.
Is there a project that, like, that's out there, like another DC or Marvel or Dark Horse, that you'd be like, I'd love to take a stab at this?
I don't know. Like, I mean, it would be hard to pass up, a big character or something.
Not Superman.
Like if Mignola asked me to do a Hellboy issue or something like that, like I would jump on that. But other than that, like I don't know. Like, because I mean, I sort of, because I freelance all the time anyway, and I get to kind of draw these characters that I do like. Say I'm drawing a Captain America or Spider-Man or whatever. It does, like I said, scratch that itch a little bit. So I don't know. Like, I mean, with all the work that goes into a comic, and then for it not to be mine, I'm almost getting a little bit selfish now with that time.
Yeah.
Where I feel like if I'm going to do it, I want it to be mine. And that's why, like, when people ask me to collab on something, I'm like, nah, like there's too many things I'd rather just do on my own and just have it be my thing. And I've almost become selfish with my comic time. I don't know. It's weird.
No, but I think you have to if you're going to do this stuff. Like, there's so many writers and collabs, other people who've reached out over the years. They're constantly like, hey, you want to work on this? I'm like, yeah, it's your idea, and I see your passion for it, but I don't have that passion for it. And it's what I try to tell them is like, it's not that I think it's not the idea for me. So right. It's either you have to find someone to collab with you that has the exact same amount of passion for whatever you're selling, because it's not where I'm going to come in and give you my best work, because you know what I mean. So I'd rather it go to someone who will do wonders for it, and it's really hard because sometimes they people get offended and stuff like that, and you're like, which I get, it's their baby, it's their idea. But at the end of the day, you're like, trust me, this is a
really great idea. But it's like, man, my time is more valuable for my own stuff. I don't.
Well, that's it exactly, right? Like Derek was saying, but it's also like, it could be the most amazing idea, and I could maybe regret like not working on it or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's like you got to make that hard call and dedicate that time to the things you want to do, or otherwise they'll just constantly be put on the shelf. And again, I mean, look at Kookaburra is one of those the thing I'm drawing right now is the exact result of me putting things on the shelf for almost a decade, because there was paying work, and you need a mortgage, you're doing this, you're caught up in the fervor of working for a bigger company. They put awesome books in front. You're like, you want to work on X-Men? Oh, cool, that
right.
But then after a while, you're like, I draw a couple of issues of X-Men. I'm like, you know what? I'm not that guy who's going to draw X-Men for 50 issues. I'm that guy who's like, after 3 issues, I'm like, my itch is being scratched. I don't need to draw any more X-Men after that. But I never get tired of drawing Kookaburra because she's taking me on a journey, and I'm part of that journey because I'm helping create it and illustrate it, and that excites me. Of you,
right?
Yeah, and it's exciting me far more than any X book. And trust me, I love all that stuff, but after a while, you begin to realize that, you got to find your place. And sometimes your place isn't working on those books. It's actually putting out your own stories and whatever, because that's where your audience will get the biggest, most fun thing that you can do.
They're going to get the real you.
Well, no, it's true, though. They're going to get look at Mignola. Like, he just did Hellboy as an off-the-cuff idea in a sketchbook one San Diego Comic-Con. And then he made it into, like, this mini empire, right? Like, Like,
well, like I look at guys like Andrew McLean who does Headlopper.
Yeah, another perfect example. Yep.
Another good one, or like another sort of like a twist on it is you guys know Michael Walsh. Sorry,
I know the name.
Silver Coin.
I know the name. I'm not familiar with Silver Coin.
Okay, check out Silver Coin. It's really cool.
Okay.
It's like so what he did was he got like some of the top writers to write issues of his like horror anthology based around this silver coin, and the silver coin is sort of the tie that ties all the horror stories together.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
so it's a really cool sort of like where it's like it's his, right? And but he brings in these writers that that sort of take a spin at his world, and that's kind of a nice little compromise for maybe if you're working with a writer but you want to kind of own that thing still.
Yeah, well, that's Eric's kind of doing. He brought in his buddy Sheldon to help kind of develop his world of art.
But it's ours, right? Like it's now both of ours. It's a 50-50 thing now.
And it's hard to find a good partnership like that, right?
Yeah.
Like, and you want to hold on to those, especially if you'd love to collab with people. Like, I mean, finding those good partnerships are key.
We started collabing, and first on his story, and then I'd kind of shoot my ideas to him on like the Raid 1 and some other ideas. Or sorry, I was working on the Devil's Leech. That was at that time. And we just hit it off. Like we were just like, man, we're just in sync with the ideas and where we got to with things. And I was like, you want to write the Raid 2 story? And that was it. That kind of he said to me, he's like, we got to work on more stuff together. I said, yeah, I agree.
No, that's cool. Like that's a rare.
It is.
A rare situation where you can bring someone in on something maybe you started, and they're just as excited to see it.
Well, yeah, because like, you don't want it's like it's your thing. It's like I'm not going to share it with somebody, but I felt so comfortable sharing it. Like I love jamming with you and Rob about it as well, right? You guys are up there, So and him and I are here, and we're and he's the writer, right? So it kind of works out, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, it was really cool how that kind of came about, and yeah, we got exciting plans ahead. So
nice.
That's awesome.
We actually have Arden Retreat this week. What?
Nice.
Don't drink too much.
Oh no, we're actually we're kind of working on that, which is good. So, but actually, we got about 8 minutes left here. Derek, is there anything else you want to talk about, buddy?
I don't know.
Any questions for us?
How about the people out there? Any questions for the people watching and listening?
That's good. Yeah, put the pressure on the people.
Yeah,
Put on the people. Yeah.
Pressure the people. It's crickets. They're like, what? Nothing going on.
Eric,
they've all left. They're off to bed right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool, man. We have to get together, Derek. I can't believe we've been.
Yeah, I know. It's weird. Like, I mean, and I think like we started to become like we met each other like just before pretty much the pandemic kind of hit.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like it wasn't even like that many years ago. I think where we actually finally connected. I find it so it's weird. Like I'm so isolated, and it's a lonely thing. Like not being in an art studio. Like I used to work at Big Blue Bubble, and it was nice to be around other artists all throughout the day and have people to talk with. And it was definitely a transition to just like working alone.
Are you on like Zoom a lot, or like? 'Cause I know a lot of artists who work at home. No, they don't.
I used to do that. Like it's I'm good friends with Sean Galloway. And when I first started really freelancing a lot, like we were working together on a bunch of things, and I helped him with his Table Tappy Studios. So we were doing that, for a while, and that was nice. But that just stopped, and then I don't really talk to too many people during the day. But
what's that guy doing? I haven't heard his name in ages.
Oh, he's doing some. I mean, I don't know what he's working, but he's got that fun big. Saturday morning cartoons.
Yeah, he's always doing that stuff. I know he does a ton of freelance like design work. That's I know he does a lot of that stuff. He's a pro. That's for sure.
No, his style is just so much fun, and like speak of like a very singular like voice, like it's so unique. Yeah, I love
80
this
more
stuff.
minutes, Sarah. You're killing us here.
80 more minutes. Eric's like, it's past my bedtime. Why do we schedule this so late?
I gotta go play Elden Ring. Holy cow!
That's what everybody here is doing at the studio.
Oh my god, that game's fantastic. It's so good.
Let me just turn the camera. I'll show you two guys playing it right now.
Yeah, we're happy to be back too, Alexia. Next week we gotta find a guest for next week.
I know.
Well, we're doing it's the anthology one next week.
Yeah, it's the anthology launch, so we're debating on whether we have a whole bunch of people on or.
I think we should do the people that are in the show in the book. Totally. We'll have a big kind of launch party raid thing.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
We'll
figure it out. We got a whole 7 days.
Whole 7 days
to figure it out. But I'm excited for that launch. I'm nervous and excited. It's funny how we've already done I think 2 Kickstarters, maybe was it 3? 2. And it's funny how the same worries are. I don't know if you get this, Derek, with all the ones that you've done, but it's just everyone. I'm like, oh my god, this is not going to work out.
I'm a wreck. I'm a wreck. I'm a complete wreck for the first week. The first week of the launch.
Yeah.
I'm hard to be around. Because I get sort of I start to curse everyone if it's oh, this is not tracking the same way the last one did. You start looking at the analytics and trying to dissect where you're going to end up, and it's stressful. I don't know. I always put this extra added stress on myself, and I tell myself every time I'm not going to do it, and then
and then you
it launches, and then I'm wrecked. So
it's crazy. There's a lot riding on it, right? So you're definitely, it's warranted. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Why do we choose Kickstarter over Indiegogo? I think this one's specifically aimed at you, Derek. But
I haven't tried Indiegogo. I mean, my ignorant research that I've done, it seems like you don't make as much money on Indiegogo. Not to say you can't make money there, but I think Kickstarter has a bigger, it's just a bigger platform, so you can get more outside people to come in, and I think that's part of it. I don't know. I haven't seen, too many campaigns just use Indiegogo as their main launch. It's usually a secondary launch if you're gonna. But I'm burnt out. By the time I'm done a Kickstarter, I don't want to extend on Indiegogo because I've had enough.
Yeah.
By that point, it's a draining thing, and I get sick of posting about it every day. And I find that part is really draining when I'm doing a Kickstarter. It's that you're just constantly, because social media, not everybody's going to see everything you post. So you're just okay, I'll post this thing every single day or twice a day. Yeah. And it's just constant. And you become obsessed. It's an obsessive thing. And that's why I find that you guys have all those Kickstarters coming up. And I wish you luck.
Yeah. We're probably gonna be wrecks. We'll just be these huddled wrecks in the corner, just shaking. I mean, the one benefit for us. I'm hope. The cool thing about being part of the studio is we have a great team of people here. It's not just one person. You yourself, you're doing that campaign by yourself. So all that pressure is resting on your shoulders to do everything. The cool thing we've managed and are still growing, I think, in kind of figuring out the full ability of what we can pull off. But just having so many people in the network who are constantly retweeting, sharing. We have guys like Sam who are helping with
Sam's awesome.
the setup of the campaign. We have guys like Rob who's helping with the distribution, setting up the shipping. So we have all these different. I'll go in and do the graphics for the site. But if I had to do that all by myself, oh my god, it just one a year for sure. It's just it's just crazy. And I'm all for giving people money for I'd rather pay someone to do it better than I can. So we make sure that everybody gets their cut for helping. So that there are people who are doing it out of the goodness of their heart, which is amazing. But at the end of the day, hopefully we can get a machine working here where we're supporting each other, but all those people who maybe aren't producing the book directly are still getting a portion of their time paid for to help create these awesome projects. And as we've done a few to experiment and figure out how everything works, we're getting better ideas of how to do that. Like, what can we afford to pay X person to do the video for the campaign, or so and so to do whatever else, and that just alleviates so much stress. You know what I mean? It's unimaginable. And I guess there are companies there that do it for you as well. But if one of them is going to people I like and I know, then it's even better at the end of the day, right? But quick question about Indiegogo, because the guy brought it up. I've never used it. I've backed a few things on it. Am I wrong in saying that you set a tipping point for the campaign, so you don't necessarily have to make the whole amount? You can still succeed.
I believe there's you don't need to. I think no, there is a threshold where you can cross and then still be considered successul.
Yeah, you'll still get it. They'll still take the payments even if you didn't hit that.
Right, and I think that's where the secondary dip kind of comes, and you do get people who miss the campaign. Like, even though you're blasting it out for a month, whatever long your campaign is, you'll still have people at the end of it go, "Oh, I missed it," and I'm like, "Where have you been?" I'm looking every day.
Actually, we just did the Vancouver Comic Con a couple weeks ago. Dax and myself, and he had his pile of Forest Folk in front of him, and he had some people come up like, "Yeah, I'm a big fan. Been following your webcomic for years. Totally missed the Kickstarter." And he's like, "We're just like, really?" I'm like, "Okay," but you step away from social, or the algorithm deflects everything that you're putting up, or whatever it is, and I guess I can see it too, right? But it's hilarious because, as you said, you're posting so much. You're like, everybody has to see this. But
how was Vancouver, by the way? Was it a successful show? Was the turnout good? Compared to other years, or? I
mean, the last time I did the Vancouver show was before Fan Expo took it over, so it's been, I think it was 2015. I want to say around there somewhere. So it's hard for me to compare, but the show itself was it's not a big show to begin with, but it was steady and it was packed. People were coming by constantly. There was very few lulls, and we did a guesstimation as to how many books to bring along, but we sold out of everything that we brought practically. I think we brought home 4 books out of the 60 I think we brought, and I think Dax sold about 35 copies to 40 of maybe Forest Folk.
That's solid.
So that's for a smaller show like that. That's pretty decent, and I think with the gem that he has with Forest Folk is the fact that it's so colorful and eye-catching that people, families, were walking by constantly, and the kids would just be like, "Oh," they just literally latch onto the book, and the parents would just lean over "Oh, what's this? Oh, is it for kids? Is it all ages? Whatever it might be." And so that, and I'm not sure if there was more families at the show because it was Family Day weekend or whatever in Vancouver, but it was just a solid crowd, and people were buying. So hopefully that bodes well. We're doing the Toronto Comic Con in a few weeks as well, and we'll see how that goes.
I think it'll be good. I mean, everyone's been in lockdown, probably just busting at the seams to come out and just see people and do normal things, right? Yeah. So I'm excited to get there too.
That's what people were saying in Vancouver. They were like, it's we're just itching to get out and do stuff and return. Everybody was masked, obviously. They took you had to show a vaccine passport to get in, so they took every precaution they could, and for the most part, I think it turned out very well. I'm not sure. Like I said, I hadn't been to that show in a while, so it's hard for me to compare previous years. Unlike, say, for example, when we do this Toronto show, I have a better idea. We do this one more regularly. Yeah. I think it's. Companies are eager to get these things going again, and fans are very eager to get up to them as well. Yep. So it's just getting back out there and taking a chance, I guess.
Derek, what are the easiest ways for people to find you online?
I would say just my website, DerekLaufman.com. It kind of is my hub.
Nice.
So, just go there, see all the stuff I'm doing. And
nice.
Buy a book.
Definitely do. Yeah, definitely do. This is your latest right here.
That'll be out. Probably the end of the month. That'll be in my shop online. But I want to make sure everybody for Kickstarter gets their books first before I sell.
No, makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I gotta get mine first before anyone else does. Okay.
Yeah,
so you go right now and put your address in there and fill out your survey.
Eric, it's awesome talking to you, buddy. Jeez.
Yeah, it's so awesome having you, man.
Blast. And we gotta touch base here in London once we can. We know some of the same people here, so it's like we should.
Yeah, actually, I was just talking to Jeff Evans the other day. And I was mentioning we should all get together, go for a drink.
Totally.
Yeah, have a big barbecue, Eric, and just invite us all over.
Yeah. Well, in the summer you gotta come over, and I'll get when these guys come visit next time. I'll make sure to call you over, man. Like they come sometimes down and visit, so I'll say, hey, come on down, Derek.
Yeah, well, that'd be wonderful.
You gotta bring all the booze and stuff, but that's fine. Don't worry.
Sure. You had mentioned at some point, I remember doing some signings or something for the rate books. Maybe.
We'll be arranging that kind of stuff because we're going to be offering signed editions for a small tier, basically.
Right.
So we'll definitely do a little road trip up to London to get the London crew to sign everything that we need to get signed, basically. All right.
Tell Eric this time. That's right. Well, great. Season 2, episode 1.
Yeah, this is a great way to start the year. And
Derek, you're a champ, man. Thanks for coming on and putting up with us.
100%.
I appreciate you having me.
Rob, you kick ass, buddy.
Thanks Rob, for all the behind the scenes work and all the people that showed up, man. This is actually a great turnout. So I'm super excited and super jazzed. And we'll see everybody next week.
Yeah, so we'll have like the little Kickstarter make shit Monday.
Exactly. So keep making shit, everybody, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks for coming, everybody. Cheers. Thanks, Derek.
Nice. That's fantastic.